Now, let me ask you, have you been trying to pivot into customer success? Have you been seeing traction? If not, what I want to do today is walk you through what I've been seeing in my coaching practice, in my mentoring practice, and in my day-to-day job as an ATS SaaS customer success manager. Hi, my name is Colin Foley, and for the last 3 years, I've been a customer success manager. I've been coaching and helping people pivot into their first customer success manager role. And one of those big key components here is really how to master your resume playbook for 2025 and really forward versus using old, outdated playbooks. So what I'm going to walk through with you right here is key tactics and simple steps that you can make your resume playbook in 2025 bulletproof, and really steps that you should know to level up your game. Let's get started. All right, everyone. So what I want to do actually here is I'm going to actually start doing these kind of like, presentations. What I'm going to do is really have this tactical advice for you that you can actually take this information and run with it and, actually have the information and use it today, right? That's really going to be my goal here. And it's really going to be tactical, easy advice from what I see as a daily customer success manager who works for a talent management company. So I work with hiring managers, I work with recruiters daily. So I'm also seeing what works in terms of pivoting, outcome metrics for your resume. So really what I want to dial down here is the new resume playbook for 2025. And really, as you can see, yesterday's resume and rules are obsolete. The modern job market demands, obviously, a new approach to stand out. And you've probably noticed that already in your day-to-day practice, right? There's AI involved. Recruiters are getting inundated, and payrolls are being slashed at companies too. So the normal recruiter, the hiring manager, is needing to wear many hats. They're needing to actually be stretched, and they're needing tools and resources within their daily practice to search for the best talent, right? So the key part here, what I talk a lot about here, is two things from the job pivoters mindset: is creating as little friction as possible when you're going into this process, and two is getting in the arena. And what do I mean by really in the arena is, if you're just on the sidelines thinking, constantly tweaking, trying to look and search for every single keyword out there, you're going to be on the sideline. You're not going to be learning. You're not going to be growing. It's the same thing. It could be dating. It could be working out. You can watch tutorials on how to squat or ask someone out on a date. But eventually, you're going to have to put yourself in the arena, see what works, A/B test, revamp, refine, refocus, and then do it again, right? And that's really what a lot of people that I've worked with and I hear from, they miss. And it's really valuable in today's market. So let's get in here. So what actually matters? And I'm going to walk through these, each one of these for you. So really, as you can see, the number one that I would say is ATS-proof first. And what do I mean that, right? If the software can't read it, it won't be seen by human eyes, optimized for AI scanning. And these are obviously, the buzzwords ATS, right? Let me tell you, I work for an ATS talent management company, and there are obviously recruiters and hiring managers who are ultimately going to make the decision. And I will want to point that out. They are ultimately going to want to make the decision. But what these ATS systems really do is they allow for, one-to-many job requisition postings. They look for, formatting. They're looking for keyword. They're looking for talent match ranking. They're going to do sourcing, and they're going to be involving AI in terms of the job description, application. So the whole holistic view of an ATS is multifaceted. It houses your offer letters. It houses your job requisitions. It houses your job boards that you apply to. It houses your pipeline view that the recruiter and the hiring manager uses and views for automation and email triggers to move you forward or backwards within that funnel, as quickly and efficiently as possible, right? So your job in this process is to create as little friction for the recruiter and the hiring manager, right? And typically in these processes, it's going to work with a recruiter first and then a hiring manager afterwards, right? And the recruiter is going to be basically doing that based on the hiring manager's wants and needs for a backfilled position or a added headcount, a growth position as well, which is usually from new business or an acquisition as well, which is good. So what I want to key in here is you have to understand what the ATSs are, what their capabilities are, do some research, talk to people. Some now have AI involved. Some do use knockout questions. Some do have screening questions. What does it look like on Indeed and LinkedIn? The quick apply, those easy applies, those are automatically going to funnel you typically in to an incomplete workflow stage within the ATS. Again, you're still in there, but optimizing it, you would have been better off just applying or reaching out to that recruiter on their company website or reaching out to them directly in that case, because eventually, that recruiter may never even get to you. You may get into the ATS, into their pipeline, but if they're going to say, we can't legally, in the HR sense, hire or really even talk to you until you complete the application, they might almost always keep you in that application incomplete bucket. And again, too, these ATSs have automatic triggers. So they're going to send you emails. So you need to make sure you're reading your emails and these follow-ups and keeping up to these date, because these things matter. A lot of these ATS things are now going to be involving assessment tests. And this is one of the key trends now that you're probably going to be seeing a lot more lately, is with AI, which ATSs do have to talent match rank based on keywords, usually job titles as well, and their job descriptions. So you need to make sure those are matched as closely as possible in your LinkedIn, without lying, obviously, but as close as possible as you can, because that is going to matter. Our assessments, behavioral assessments, job target profile assessments, because they're going to want to make sure that you're not just using AI to bypass the system, right? That you are a person, video screening, and those things. So those are going to be a new trend that a lot of ATSs have always leveraged, but you're going to see those really gaining momentum in 2025. Value over everything. So focus on results and impact. Show what changed because of your actions, not just what you did. This is a key part, and this is really where that customer success aspect happens. And if you're pivoting from another industry, like I pivoted from hotels, right? So I had that customer centric, customer service background. So I could talk a lot about that. I also worked for WeWork, so I had sort of a um, enterprise management, but also in real estate. So I was able to actually incorporate, value and impact on a client level, as opposed to just the actions, right? There's a big difference when you're going about this saying, in restaurants, you served X amount of tables per day. If you show impact of what was the adoption of maybe your marketing plan that you did online, or what was your adoption of cutting down the menu, did it increase sales? Did it increase seat? Did it increase dollar, in the check sales and everything, right? So you want to look at really what you did, and this is really where kind of you're going to have to audit yourself, do a skills assessment. What did you did, and then you tie them back to actions and metrics, right? And you really want to make sure you're saying that in your resume of everything is tied back to an outcome, right? The situation, the action, and the outcome, right? Because those are really going to differentiate you as you're navigating the application and through hiring managers and recruiters. They ultimately want to see what you can do for them, not just your day-to-day job duties. And that really kind of goes into number 3, modern metrics. Quantify achievements with specific numbers, right? So this is really where adoption, percentages, scores, length of time, time to first value, time to first contact, dollars or percentages, obviously. If you're in any kind of, SE, ADR, any sort of, you can quantify you did X, which increased percentage over a period of time versus your benchmark, you're set. If you can do any kind of growth in terms of dollars, you are set. You are going to be ahead of the curve. If you don't have those, that's really where you're going to want to spend some time of auditing those, right? And you're going to really want to see okay, well, was there are you in risk management? Was there something like risk decreased by X percentage? Slips and falls or documentation. Did you speed up efficiencies? In your leadership or managing people, right? Did you drive adoption of menu design from hotels or restaurants, or did you do something in terms of time to first contact, times of first value, or anything? Was it a marketing company or anything like that where you increase adoption and usage and utilization or screen time or monthly renewal increases and everything? And even if it wasn't you directly, were you a part of a team? Were you cross collaborating with other team members who maybe did these so you could talk about in that sense? Were you in the financial area where like you were selling financial products and everything. We'll talk about that and talk about that increased pipeline with real numbers. And if you can benchmark them, that would be even better. Functional design. This one's key too. It kind of goes back to the ATS proof, which I see a lot of people just like not doing. Is you don't want to do the Canva design. You don't want to do multiple fonts. You don't want to have an image. You don't want to have like multiple columns, right? Because those things matter. Because it matters from the standpoint of the ATS. They could be blurry. It could be not functional. It could not come across. It might not format exactly what you want. And again, the friction area of the first part is critical here. You want to create as little friction. So if you're coming into the pipeline as already a heavy friction, you need to be essentially that rock star for that recruiter to move you in, forward in that workflow of the pipeline, right? So simple, clean, readable designs outperform flashy templates. Clarity is key, right? When you're having your professional, statement, you keep it to 2 or 3 sentences, right? You also just want to make sure it's functional and it's quick. The recruiters are going to have a lot of resumes to go over. So if you're filling that first page, or isn't that 80% of that first page, with a long 2 or 3 professional experience, your desired job, or even if you have a skill section in there or something, and it's like taking up 20% of the page, that's a lot, and it's a lot where like they eventually like that recruiter, the hiring manager, want to know like where you are, proximity, how do they reach you, your LinkedIn, email. They want to know quickly like what is your value prop in terms of that professional statement, quick. And then they want to get into the meat and potatoes. You can have a one-liner in terms of a toolkit that says, software, Salesforce, especially if you're applying for a job that is specific to that. If you're applying for like a project management software, say Asana or say those tools. If you're applying for, marketing or Survey Monkey or these survey tools, like definitely specify those. I live in HR tech, so I might say Clear Company or ADP or HRIS softwares. Like I know those, right? If you're working for a CSM, CRM tool, say that you have real hard work with Gainsight, Todango, Catalyst, anything. And then lastly, future focused. Illustrate your potential and where you're headed, not just your past experiences. This is kind of where the value over everything is. Everything is basically, and this is really going to go into where you then start to craft your stories. Every bullet point should then you should sort of start creating stories in your head. That way you can tell those in your interview, right? So you're creating this potential. It's not just, I managed X employees. It's like, well, what does that do for them, right? You need to tie that leadership component that like, I did this, which led to this action. So they take that action and they say, this person can do that in this current job, right? So that's really where you want to tie in these stories. And if you can kind of relate it to like how you were an A player already, and that your potential in the next company, they have proof of concept. And in your stories, when you tell them during the interview process, that they're going to have a good hire because you've illustrated your potential ahead of time. All right, cool, everyone. So there you go. So there is 5 quick, very tactile steps of really what matters in modernizing for your 2025 resume playbook, right? So hopefully you'll like this. Keep watching for more content. I'm going to try to do these more often. And again, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, you can always find me there, DM me. I'm always willing to help and pay it forward. We'll see you on the next one.